Now, when it comes to light, we should also talk about its opposing side, namely shadows. And shadows are one of those things that people take a little bit for granted. And that's because, Blender automatically generates them whenever you place a light. But it's good to understand and know why we need shadows for our images to look the way they do. Let's go into Blender and I'll show you real quick. If we look at this scene, it's currently not possible for us to define what's going on here. We just see a blue background and we see two white circles. And we have no idea of the context of this image. So our brain can't make much more of it than it just being a blue and white image with two white circles in it. But if we include an area light, for example, here, and we tone down the background a little bit, hey, would you look at that? We now get the information that we need to understand some of the image here. So for example, first of all, this turns out to be a sphere on the right side here. And this thing on the left here isn't a sphere at all. It's a cylinder just aimed towards the camera. And this thing is floating above the ground, as we can see by the shadow here. And the sphere here is on the ground, as we can see by the shadow here. And this is exactly what I mean. We need those shadows to understand the image. Our brain needs shadow to get the context that it needs to be able to determine what is what. And that is what shadows are for. Now, obviously this is done automatically. So yeah, I just turn on the light and tone down the environment, and there we have it. There are our shadows. Yes, that is true, but it's still good to understand. And a good thing to know about shadows, I'll zoom in on this sphere here, is that we want gradations. So basically we want all of our shadows on objects to always have some sort of gradation going from light to dark. And the way this gradation is shaped determines the shape of our object. So over here we have a curved gradation going from lighter to slightly darker to even darker to really dark up here. And that is giving us this spherical idea. Now these are basic shading principles that if you were to do pencil drawings, for example, on paper in the real world drawings, you would have to apply these techniques to get definition and form to your shapes. And that's kind of what I want to express here. Again, it's done automatically by Blender, but still good to understand that to our eyes, this is really important to define the shape of this thing here. Now, if you were to look at a different object like this sword, for example, then with just one area light here, we immediately get a lot of information. So if we have our background all the way white, for example, maybe make that a little bit brighter, we're losing a bunch of information. And it's really hard to determine what the shape is of the things that we are looking at, right? Even if we tone it down a little bit, we still lose so much information, making it hard for us to be able to tell what's going on. But if we use the area light, we immediately get that gradation. So if we have the area light placed above us here, the area light is giving us the information that this part of the blade is probably circular. It's like a grip, for example. Same for this thing here. And over here, it's probably sharp and we get a harsher shadow here. And this thing is probably sharp as well. And over here, we have a more flat surface. And all of this shadow information is giving us the context that we need. And whenever we light a subject, we want it to be as evenly gradated as possible. So we want every part of this thing to have gradation. Now, for example, over here, we do have some gradation going from light to dark, but we're also losing the contours here. And basically, this part of our object is underexposed and we're just not getting enough information, which is why you would want to add, in this case, another area light, which even if it's just very, very subtle, it will give us the context again of this thing still continuing onwards, and that being that gradation that we are looking for. So we're looking for gradient lighting across all of the surfaces of our object. Whether that's a flat surface like this, we still get some sort of gradation if we have our area light properly placed. So if I move this thing back a little bit, something like that, we're still getting our gradation here. Lightest, semi-dark, and darker towards here. And that is a gradation that we are looking for on each and every surface of a mesh. And so yeah, that's just a very quick notice on shadows in general. Again, a lot of this is done automatically, but it's very important to understand why our brains need shadow. Basically, you want to look at your model not only from a lighting perspective, but also taking these shadows into consideration to make sure you get the best results possible. And that's all for shadows. So let's move on to using color.